Hey, welcome back. Hope you guys had a fantastic 4th of July holiday. In today's video, I want to talk about Redfin's latest housing market update just posted yesterday. They talk about how we have all-time record high home prices, yet pending home sales are decreasing. So we're kind of seeing this interesting dynamic in which we're seeing, all-time record highs for prices, but because of that, that's decreasing home sales. It says U.S. home sold prices reach a new all-time record high, pushing pending sales down by 5%. So pending sales is a measure of people or home buyers getting their offers accepted. That is a new pending home sale. It also says here that pending home sales posted their biggest decrease since February during the 4 weeks ended June 30th. The good news for prospective buyers, this is kind of laughable. Let me know what you guys think about this. There are more new listings to choose from, and monthly housing payments are down nearly $100 from their April peak as rates are decreasing. So they look at the average monthly housing payment of would-be home buyers, taking the average home price and looking at the average weekly rate 1 week ago. And for those home buyers out there, you can save a whopping or nearly $100. I say this is laughable because still, when comparing your housing payment this year to about 3 or 4 years ago, you're going to pay over $1,000 more per month to buy an average price home today compared to a few years ago. So I don't think there's going to be home buyers rejoicing that they're going to see their housing payment or their future housing payment decreasing by less than $100. Anyways, we have a very challenging housing market. I just kind of want to talk about this really quickly here. I talk about very frequently how we have a lack of contracts being signed, a lack of sales, because we have, all-time record highs in home prices, and of course we have elevated rates as well. Everyone knows this, right? We're seeing a lack of home sales, and right now we're more or less on track to have fewer home sales on a national level compared to last year. And last year, we had the fewest number of sales of existing houses since 1995. That does not mean the housing market is going to crash. It just means that it's more challenging to buy houses, and we're seeing a lack of transactions taking place right now. If unemployment surges or if new listings also surge as well, of course, that would increase inventory greatly, putting downward pressure on prices. Right now, what we're seeing is new listings rising, which is a positive sign. We're seeing more houses for sale, but our labor market overall is not in the gutter. So because of that, we're seeing overall homeowners reluctant to sell. And I'll share some news regarding that here in a little bit. Now, first, let's talk about some leading indications of our housing market. Something I really enjoy talking about because any metric that has to do with a closed home sale, this is closed home sales, the median sold price, the average sale price to final list price ratio, and also days in the market, etc., are all lagging indications what our housing market was like approximately 1 to 2 months ago when the home buyer got their offer accepted. That's a lagging indicator. So speaking of leading indications, let's talk about rates. So the average daily rate as of July 2nd is at 7.13%. This is from the Mortgage News Daily. But this is as of Wednesday. So the average 30-year fix is at 7.08%. Again, for people with fantastic credit, putting 25% to buy a house, if that's you, you're looking at average rate as of Wednesday at this rate right here. But of course, if you have a less than desirable FICO score and you're putting down less than 25%, your rate may be higher than these rates on their website. Any case, looking at jumbo and FHA loans, that's around 6.55%. Now, something I found to be interesting is that we've been talking about how rates have been much higher compared to 1 year ago, but now that gap is actually getting very narrow. 1 year ago, the average 30-year fix was at 7.03%, so a small increase by 5 basis points compared to 12 months ago. Also, the average 30-year fixed rate hasn't really fluctuated very much at all ever since really the end of May. So around 7 to about 7.2% for about a month or so. All right, looking at some more leading indications of our housing market, especially home buying demand, is the number of people who are submitting mortgage applications to buy houses. This is from the MBA, a common metric I talk about on the channel. So last week, application numbers decreased by 12% year over year, and also down by 3% compared to 1 week ago. Also, I did some digging for you guys looking at ICE, which used to be Black Knight. Their latest report showed that the amount of people submitting loan applications to buy houses still remains about 45% below pre-pandemic averages. So big picture, because we're seeing a lack of people submitting applications, and of course we're seeing rates still at 7% plus, this is all implying we're going to see a lack of closed home sales in the coming months. Also, according to Redfin's Home Buyer Demand Index, that was a decrease of 17% year over year. That's an index which measures requests for home tours and other home buying services from their agents. On top of that, it's essentially unchanged from 1 month ago as well. Also looking at Google searches for homes for sale, that was down 4% from a month ago and down a whopping 20% year over year. Now here's a more updated version of that. This is on Google Trends. You basically can search for any search term that people search on Google, and they provide a chart. You kind of can change this by the country, the time frame, and whether it's a web search or a search on YouTube, for example. So this is basically an index. The higher the number means that there's more people searching for homes for sale or any search term you're looking at. But this is homes for sale, and this is a little bit more updated than Redfin's report. So the index for the week ended July 6th, which is not, it's basically partial results because I'm making this video on July 4th. The index is at 75. 1 year ago, it was at 100. So basically what this means is that a index of 100 means the highest number of searches for homes for sale over the past 12 months. The low point, not surprisingly, was the week before Christmas when the index was at 56. So pretty remarkable here that last year we were basically at all-time record highs over the past 12 months, and now we're basically 25% below that level. On top of that, all year, this search level has been flat, which is quite remarkable. And in my personal opinion, this is all leading to a lack of contracts being signed, of course, a lack of transactions on a national level, especially compared to 1 year ago. In any case, let's talk about home prices, inventory levels, pending home sales, and a lot more in today's video. This, by the way, is for the 4 weeks ended June 30th. They basically cover 400 plus US metros, and their data goes back to 2015. Also, their data is subject to revision. All right, let's first talk about the median sold price. That increased to $397,954. That's a gain of 4.9% year over year. That's a new all-time record high. And also that gain of 4.9% is the biggest year-over-year increase since March this year. Let's take a look at their chart going back to 2021 regarding the US. Median sold price has basically been going at a healthy clip ever since December this year. What we should expect, though, is for prices or the median sold price to kind of go like this. It's more normal to see home prices kind of decrease in the winter months, as you can see each and every year here. But right now at 397,000, up by 5% year over year. Last year this time, we were at about approximately 381,000. Now it's at 397, very close to approaching over 400,000. Also, 3 years ago, at this time, we saw a gain of prices up by 21%, entirely different market. And also we're at only $341,000. So home prices have increased greatly over the past several years. Now, every market's different, so let's have a look at this. Here is the 50 most populous metros. So the biggest increase in prices is Anaheim, California. Once again, up by nearly 15%. Then we have New York, New Jersey, Nassau County, New York, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and Fort Lauderdale, up by 11.1%. In contrast, there's 3 metros that are down year over year. Last week, if you guys recall, there was 4 metros, all located in Texas. And again, all located in Texas. New one here is Dallas, actually. So Austin, Texas, down by 2.1. Dallas, down by 1.5. I haven't seen Dallas in the metros in which has decreased year over year. I don't think in a long, long time. San Antonio, Texas, down barely down by 0.2%. Actually, I went back 1 week ago. So this is for the 4 weeks ended June 23rd. In fact, Dallas was down year over year. So I misspoke. Fort Worth, Texas was down last week, but this week it actually is increasing. But we still have Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio still down year over year. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about average monthly housing payments, because again, you can save nearly $100 if you buy a house today looking to buy an average house. Anyways, the median monthly payment was $2,749 per month. That was based on the weekly rate from Fannie Mae 1 week ago at 6.86%. So your average payment increased by 6.5% year over year. It's $88 per month below the all-time record highs set back in April this year. Redfin also provided this as well, looking at a chart of average monthly housing payments going back to 2021. At this time in 2021, your average payment was around $1,600 per month. Now it's a whopping $2,749 due to the rise in rates and, of course, due to the rise in home prices, especially compared to 2021. And that, my friends, is one of the reasons why we're seeing a lack of contracts being signed, which is helping increase housing inventory on a national level right now. Now, speaking of that, pending home sales, which is a measure of contracts being signed, decreased by 4.6%. That was one of the biggest decreases in about 4 months. Meanwhile, on the supply side, new listings, people listing their houses for sale, rose by 9.9%. That was one of the biggest increases in about 2 months. I also did some digging for you guys as well, looking at ICE's report. Again, this is formerly Black Knight. Their mortgage monitor, which is posted a few days ago, showed that there was approximately 25% fewer houses being listed for sale in May, a little bit different of a time frame here, than the average May from 2017 through 2019. So even though new listings are on the rise compared to last year, they're still down greatly compared to pre-COVID levels, approximately 25% fewer on a national average. So therefore, homeowners are still reluctant to sell because we have a lack of people listing their houses for sale compared to pre-COVID levels. And here's that report from ICE looking at the deficit of new listings compared to the same time frame in 2017 through 2019. The percent difference from the same month looking at pre-COVID levels. So for the month of May, new listings decreased by 25% compared to the average May in 2017, 18, and 19. Not as bad as a deficit we saw back in March of 2023, when that deficit was down 31%. What I also found to be interesting as well is that the deficit this year compared to 2017 through 19 has actually been growing for the past 2 months in a row. So in other words, we're not seeing new listings absolutely skyrocketing, causing inventory to skyrocket as well. We're seeing a lack of new listings, historically speaking. Now, speaking of active listings or housing inventory, according to Redfin, that increased by nearly 18% year over year. Also has been growing due to more new listings hitting the market. So we have a 10% increase of new listings. But on top of that, we're seeing this environment in which we have tight affordability and elevated rates, which of course is dampening home sales. So in other words, we're seeing a rise of inventory due to a lack of sales, but also due to a rise of new listings as well from a year ago. Now, speaking of sales, let's look at pending home sales for the 50 most populous metros. The biggest increase is actually in San Jose, up by 18.2% year over year. Then we have San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts. In contrast, the biggest decreases of pending home sales is West Palm Beach, Florida, down by 16.4%, Houston down by 13.4%, Atlanta down by 12%, Miami down by 12% as well, and Minneapolis, Minnesota down by nearly 11%. So out of the 50 most populous metros, only 9 of them are up year over year. In contrast, looking at on the supply side, new listings are still rising big time in San Jose, up by 49%. Seattle up by 29%, Miami up by 25%, Boston increased by 24%, and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania also up by more than 22%. In contrast, there's only 2 metros out of 50. That's pretty wild, right? 48 of the 50 most populous metros have more new listings this year compared to last year. So the biggest decreases are Atlanta, Georgia, down by 7.7, and Detroit barely squeaking out a decline, down by 0.4%. Let's take a look at new listings from Redfin's data center. This data goes back through 2021. I really wish they provide 2019 and 18 numbers, but here we go. New listings have been increasing for about 2 months now, which is different compared to last year. New listings were starting to decrease, very slowly, starting in May, and decrease for more or less the remainder of the year, which is normal to see a lack of new listings hitting the market during the winter months. But what's abnormal, let me just actually exclude 21 and 22. You can see here, new listings rising, yet last year, new listings were decreasing year over year. So we'll have to closely follow this, because if new listings kind of go like this, when they should be going down, that would cause inventory to rise further, putting more downward pressure on home prices. So stay tuned on that. In regards to pending home sales, it has been moving more or less in line with last year's levels, but it's at least a 3-year low during the same time frame right now, and down by nearly 5% year over year. All right, so we're seeing more new listings up by 10%, yet we're seeing pending home sales falling by about 5%. So let's have a look at active listings or housing supply. That has been slowly increasing for about 2 months now. It was increasing at a much faster clip during the spring months, but now kind of like edging off here, but also up by nearly 18% year over year. Something I want to point out is the rate of increases though compared to 2022. As you guys can see here, active listings were absolutely skyrocketing through basically August, July last year, whereas this year it is rising or increasing, but not at the same rate as 2 years ago. Now, looking at the past 4 years, we're still at least a 3-year high right now at approximately 970,000 houses for sale. At this time last year, we only had approximately 823,000. Something that you guys should be aware of as well is that right now at 969,000 existing houses for sale right now, this is actually very, very close to the peak of 2022, when at that time there was around 981,000. So we're actually getting very close to have more active listings than any other week since at least 2021. Let's also discuss the month supply, because overall we're still at relatively low levels at 3.3 months. Again, historically speaking, low levels, but it's still at least a 3-year high as well. 3.3 months last year's time, which is the orange line, we were sitting at a 2.6 month supply. Now it's up by 0.7 months. Back in 2021, this time, the month supply was about 2 months. Now, going forward for the remainder of the year, it would be normal to see the month supply increase for the remainder of the year. As you can see, virtually during the last half of the year, the month supply tends to increase. And by the way, if you guys are curious to see, what is the month supply, how's it compared to 2017 through 2019? The average during that time is a month supply at 3.9 months. So at 3.3 months, we're basically in line, or actually a little bit lower than pre-COVID levels. In any case, moving on, let's talk about how fast or how slow houses are selling right now. So days in the market's at 32 days. This is at least a 3-year high as well. Back in 2022 and 21, houses on average were selling in about 21 to about 23 days. Now it's about 10 days more than that at 32 days. Like I mentioned in previous videos as well, is that from January through basically April, houses on average were selling faster compared to 2023. However, ever since May, it's taking longer to sell houses right now, which is all contributing to the rise of inventory right now. So we're seeing more new listings in the market. We're seeing sales decreasing and also houses taking longer to sell, all contributing to the rise of inventory on a national level. Something that I found interesting as well is that only 32% of all houses that sold over the previous 4 weeks sold over the seller's final list price. This is at least a 3-year low as well. During the craziness of 22 and 21, that ratio was over 50%. Now it's only at 32%. So on average, approximately what? 68% are selling at or below the seller's final list price. Let's also discuss the percent of price reductions right now, because that has increased to a record high over the past 3 years at least. So the share of price drops is at 6.9%, surpassing the previous peak, which was set back in October of 2022 at 6.7%. Now we're basically going straight up right now at 6.9%. What this is telling me is that we're not seeing runaway price growth, because we're seeing homeowners have to reduce their asking prices in order to get their houses sold. And this is telling me that we're going to see a slowdown in home price growth in the months to come, due to the fact we're seeing a rise of inventory, but also price drops also increasing as well. Redfin also provided this chart looking at the average sale price to final list price ratio. That was at 99.7%. Again, a lagging indicator though, because this is based on a closed home sale. So on average, for the house that did sell over the previous month, they sold for 0.3 percentage points less than the final list price. This is at least a 3-year low as well. 2 years ago at this time, houses were selling for about 2% over asking. Now they're selling for slightly below asking price on average. And lastly, Redfin's home buyer demand index is also at least a 3-year low as well, and down 17% year over year. So with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. If you guys got any value, please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, appreciate you. Also, consider subscribing as well. Hope you guys have an awesome day or weekend, and we'll see you in the next video. Have an awesome day.